Welcome to The Business Behind Your Business, the podcast where we delve into the financial strategies and insights that drive success for small and medium-sized business owners. I'm your host, Paul Sweeney, and in each episode we bring you expert guests who share practical advice, real-world experiences, and actionable tips to empower you on your business journey. Whether you're a seasoned entrepreneur or just starting out, get ready to uncover the secrets to success and gain valuable insights into the business behind your business. A lot of business owners have heard that the money is in the list, so they focus on building an audience. More leads, more subscribers, more contacts. But the gap is what happens after that, because most businesses already have a list. What they don't have is a simple way to stay in touch that builds trust over time. Some try to fix it with the occasional email. Others hand it all to AI without really knowing what questions to ask. And the emails sound fine, but the results, well, they're just not there. The issue isn't the effort, it's the follow-up isn't structured in a way that keeps people engaged long enough to matter. And today, we're going to make that a practical conversation. We're going to help you understand how to do that in very practical terms, very simple steps, and how you can build trust and authority without being overly salesy in your communications. Thankfully for you, I'm not the guy that's going to be telling you how to do this. I've got Ely Delaney with me, and Ely, he's an email marketing strategist. Now, we say officially since July 2008, which is still quite a long time, but I'm going to say that Eli's been in this game. He's been understanding how email works and the strategy for almost 15 years before that. So he really knows how this system works, and he's been there learning all the mistakes and perfecting his solution. We're privileged today because he's going to share some of that with us, helping people like us, business owners who want to build long-term relationship-driven follow-up systems, but we need some guidance. Thankfully, Eli's been there. He's also shared some of his learning expertise and advice in the Follow Up Code, which is a new book just out, which is full of great insights, practical tips. And look, if you can't wait to get your hands on the book, you can sign up for his free 5-day email course, just like I've done, and start working through some of the follow-up fixes that really jump out, some great value straight away. Ely, look, I'm not going to waste any more time. Welcome to The Business Behind Your Business. It is absolutely wonderful to have you here with us today.
Well, thank you so much, Paul. It's my pleasure to be here. I love talking about this stuff. And, like you said something very important, which is kind of like the basis of everything I do, which is somebody, businesses that want to build relationships with the people that are on their list. And that's really where my specialty comes in.
Yeah, because, and that relationship thing, look, we feel quite awkward about building it as a relationship. I think a lot of us still view it as a transactional communication, that we're trying to get, here's all our information out there. We want you to act and we want to get as much information to you, but we're missing that trust and that relationship in how we're approaching it. Why do we make it so awkward when we come to selling through email?
So the reality is that one of two things happens, and most people fit in either of these two extremes, I would actually say. One is like you're talking about, somebody who's like, I don't want to oversell. I don't want to sound desperate. I don't want to pitch all the time. And usually those are the people that do nothing. Like they might be building a list because that's what they were told to do. And they have these email addresses of prospects and clients and referral partners and all the people they're talking to. But they're like, they have like massive anxiety to send out a newsletter once a month. And that's not going to get them where they want to do, because it's such a powerful tool. But then we have people in the absolute opposite extreme, which go to the internet marketing space, where all of us have seen people where they're emailing like 3 times a day, and it's all about scarcity. And, hey, I have this PDF and there's only 20 of them left, which I don't understand because it's digital, but they do that anyway. And we get those emails and we feel yucky. We feel like, I don't want to do that. And so people will start doing that, and it's like they're burning their list. Those are the guys that are burning their list because people are like, okay, I'm tired of it, dude. Go away. I don't want to hear from you anymore. So we have these two sides that are extremely opposites. And the problem is that neither understands there is a happy middle ground. And that's really where everything that I've done, I'm like, okay, I know that not emailing doesn't do any good. And I know that spamming people to death doesn't do any good. So what should we be doing instead? And what I fell into early on is getting people to join my list, number one, by giving them something of true value. Nowadays, if you're going to have a lead magnet on your website, it's got to have something good. That checklist of two things that you just redid, or basically a webinar pitch that got transcribed into a PDF, that things like that, they suck. Nobody wants those. And so, I focus on things that are going to give value right out of the gate. So as you brought up in my introduction, you mentioned the Follow Up Fix, which is a email course. Basically, it's an email series that I put together. It's the 5 biggest mistakes people are making at their email marketing and what they should do instead. So it's like, okay, here's the problem that you see that you have, and here's how to fix it. And this is something that we build things like that for clients as well. But we're like, do something that's got real value, but also come from a place of being conversational. That's the part that people miss more than anything else when it comes to email, is they have to have these fancy newsletters. They have to, we have to have 10 clicks or 10 links in here spaced this far apart because that's what the stats tell us we need. It's like, no, get rid of all that stuff. Talk to somebody like they're sitting across the table from you at a coffee shop having a conversation, and just talk to them. And when you do that, it shifts everything, because now people start looking at your emails and they might open it up. You have to have a good subject line to get them to open it originally. But then if they get really good stuff and they feel very conversational with you, they're like, wow, this is really cool. And I think he really cares about me. Then the next email doesn't even have to have a great subject line, but they're more likely to open it because they say, okay, Paul sent me something pretty cool a week ago. Yeah, I should probably look at this and see what he's got. And that's where we start shifting everything, because that is the basis of how you can get emails to get opened. As an example, I get a lot of clients. I have one in particular that when she first came to me, she was getting less than 7% open rate on her emails, and had been for over 2 years. All I did was write a 3-email reactivation campaign. We call it a bring them back, which is basically, it's like, okay, how do you bring the people on your list back when you haven't done a very good job before? First email that they got was a 9% open rate. The second one was 11. The third one was an 18% email rate, all in a week time frame. And the only thing that was different was how we talked to the people on that list. And she had more people reply back, thanking her and saying, hey, by the way, it's been a while. I might need your help. Can I get on your calendar? And these are all people who hadn't been doing anything. They hadn't even been opening her emails before, let alone actually responding to them.
There's so much in what you've just said that I want to sort of dive in a bit deeper. And firstly, I want to make the comment that I have in the past, I've subscribed to a number of people's emails because I've really valued the content or what they do. Mm-hmm. But like, as you mentioned, after a week or two, I've just said, no, enough. That's too much. I like your content, but I don't want to hear about it 3 times a day. I don't want to even hear about it 2 times a day. And look, to be honest, the daily follow-ups, why haven't I signed up to your next course? That's a bit too much. We don't want to be like that.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
That's sort of, like you mentioned, we see that happening to us, and we don't want to be the person doing that to somebody else, because it is cringy. It is. And I've been told in the past my emails need to be more exciting and things. I'm going, that's not how I speak. That's not me. Somebody's going to read that and go, that's not Paul. Who's in this? And I go, I can't just blame the marketing people all the time.
Well, that's the thing, is that it doesn't have to be hypey to be exciting. Because, if you tell a good story, like, I'm not a loud, hypey guy. When I get on things like this, or if I'm speaking on stage, I ramp up the energy a lot, because I'm usually kind of the chill dude that sits in the back of the room, and people come sit down next to me. We have a drink, we start talking, and we just have a good conversation is usually at a very kind of monotone, mellow pace. That's kind of me normally. So when I write that way, but I'm still adding value. I'm still telling stories. I can be self-deprecating sometimes, joke about something silly or stupid that I did. You can have fun with it if that's part of your personality. And if your personality is that hyper high energy, alpha energy, then fine. That's what you do. There's nothing wrong with that in itself. But you have to remember who your audience is and speak to them like they're humans, as opposed to I always say, talk to them like a human instead of your personal ATM. Change it up, you know?
Yeah, I remember doing a business writing course many years ago, and we thought it was going to be about how to write better business communications. But the crux of it really was write in a way that you would speak to somebody normally, so that they're more likely to want to read what you've written, but also understand it.
Yeah.
Because a lot of the time, there's so much jargon and buzzwords and sales in these emails, and you think, oh no, okay,
Right.
But so now, one of the other things you mentioned was that, and look, I think the caption on the back of the book sums this up really good. I think you're talking about email, but I want to say that it's not the problem with your email; it's the problem with your lead magnet sucks as well. With some really bad lead magnets out there, because I've signed up for a few things and I'm going, what? I thought you were giving me something of value. It's just a list of 5 things that I already knew. Why? The first thing is getting people onto our list and building trust. So if if we destroy that trust straight away by not giving them the value that we promised, we've got, is it easy? No, it's not going to be easy, I'm guessing. But how do you then repair that damage by giving something substandard? Because I think, that happens a lot.
If you've given something substandard, and that is happening a lot, like I'm finding, first and foremost, what you give away, nowadays we live in such an ADHD world, that we need to remove all friction as possible. And so people signing up for the hour-long webinar, the numbers are so drastically down, it's crazy. And people signing up for your ebook, I mean, stop and think about it for a second. How many thousands of gigs of stuff do you have on your hard drive that you signed up for and downloaded, and it's sitting there collecting digital dust because you never looked at it again? We all have that stuff. I have stuff I paid for that I never even went through. So we don't need more information. We don't need more data. What we need is short, sweet, to the point. Think TikTok marketing. And so I've removed all of that stuff. I'm not even, with clients, we used to do checklists because they were still short, sweet, and to the point, but it was a PDF. And then we'd have a follow-up series to get them to download the PDF. And more recently, I was like, okay, wait a minute. Let's just eliminate that friction point. And instead of having 5 things in a PDF and then sending emails talking about go back to the PDF, let's just put them in the email. And so what we're actually doing now, and I have a whole formula that I use for it, but we create these 5-day educational email courses, and we have a couple of different angles we'll use depending on what the client, like what their our clients' problems are, and figure out, okay, I want you to get an email a day for the next 5 days. I want you to be able to read it in 4 minutes or less, and have something that you learned something of value. You have an action step to take, and you got a taste of who I am as a human being. And those have been going crazy because people are like, they get to the end, and like for my own personal, people are like, this sounded like a conversation with you. I get people that get on a call with me and they're like, I feel like I already know you. And all they did was read a couple of emails. And so we changed that. And you said something a minute ago that I think is a key point that a lot of people don't think about is how do you need to write like you talk or write like you speak. The problem is that 90% of the people out there don't do that because their English teachers destroyed them and told them that they shouldn't write like that because that's wrong grammar and your punctuation is off and you got too many run-on sentences and all the stuff that makes it bad technically. But that's the stuff that actually makes it you and builds a personal relationship, gets them to feel you and your personality and your style and everything that makes you you. So when they read that email, they hear your voice. So that's the beauty of it. I had a client recently that I was working with, and this was the most fun experience because I have lots of clients that I work with that are fun, but this one was his way of reviewing our content together when I would give it to him was for him to literally read it out loud. And so when I'm writing, because I ghostwrite for my clients most of the time, when I'm writing, I write in their voice and I'm thinking, how would this person say it? Like, how would Paul say this? What would his nuances be? What would his tonality be? What would his pausing and the timing and would it be higher pitched or lower pitched? All those things are going into my head. And then I have to take that and translate into words that has no sound frequency to it. And so I have this thing in my head, hearing this client's voice, and he started reading it out. And I'm just like, this is exactly what I wanted. And he got to it and he's like, this is exactly what I wanted to say. I knew what I wanted to say, but I didn't know how to say it right. And you just took the words and you put them together right. And I'm like, well, that's the whole point, is that the magic is in you. You have the wisdom. You just need somebody to pretty the words up for you. And that's what I do. But when you can do that and think about that for yourself, when you're writing, don't write like you write, because that's not the right way to do it. Write like you talk. And when you do that, it's people are just like, this reads just like you. This sounds like you, when it's just words on a page.
Because a lot of the time I think people read, like, I know it's not the most efficient way of reading, but when we read, we sound it out in our head. Or if some people in my family, you actually read out the emails verbally or audibly, which can get a bit annoying sometimes. But when you receive something and you're reading it, and if it sounds too stiff or technical, or it's just come straight out of a scientific textbook, you're going, no, you don't even finish. You just push it aside.
Right. And we get bored too easy. That's why.
Oh, yeah. Well, well, you mentioned we live in an ADH world. I think we just created that. I don't know if it's a definite issue, but I think we've created a culture of that.
Oh, yeah.
We're talking. One of the things we talked about was how I asked about killing trust with those really poor emails to start with.
Yes.
In your course, and look, I'm not gonna dive too much into it because I want people to actually go and subscribe to it. But you mentioned the pitch pirate that kills trust instantly. Can you just sort of share a bit what you mean by that?
Yes. So the term pitch pirate is not something that I created, but I kind of took it on because it worked so well for this scenario. And a guy by the name of David Fagan, actually, I heard him talk about this one time, probably 15 years ago. And it just hit home, because it's like, you ever run into that time where you got that friend, we all have that friend that the only time we hear from them is when they want something. It's like they'll ghost you for 2 years, and then all of a sudden they'll show up. It's because they want to borrow money from you, or they're trying to do something. I like, when I launched my podcast, I had a whole bunch of people that didn't give me the time of day before, but all of a sudden I got a new podcast. They want to get on my show. Just for the record, the answer was no on absolutely every one of them. But we all have those people in our lives that the only time they show up is when they're trying to sell something. And so that's what we call the pitch pirate. And the joke behind it is you don't want to be the pitch pirate, because the only time you get the pitch pirate is they only show up when they want your booty. That's what it stands for. And we all know those people, and we want to get away from that. And so if you can consistently add value to other people's lives, and this works outside of just email, by the way. I use it in email because that's my thing, but this will work in This will work on the stuff that you post on social media. It'll work when you're direct messaging somebody on Facebook or LinkedIn or whatever. It doesn't really matter the medium. The principle is the same. If you consistently stay in front of somebody, but you're giving them value, they're more likely to pay attention. And the key to this is the value should not always be around your business. So, as an example, I keep this book sitting on my desk all the time. It's The Go-Giver by Bob Burg. Have you read that one?
No, but I will be.
Okay. You should read this one. So, it's all about how you come from a place of giving. The principle of, like, you think of the concept of you're going to walk into a room to network with other people, whether it's a conference or a local networking group or whatever. Most people walk in the door and they're hunting. They're looking for their next kill. And that's not the way you want to do it. People can smell that when you walk towards them. And if you come from a place of, who can I help in this room instead? And walk in the room and look at that going, okay, how can I help somebody here tonight? All of a sudden you change the entire thing. And the more people you help, the more social karma you create, and the more likely it's going to come back to you. And probably when it comes back, it's going to be tenfold. And it may not even be from anybody in that room. But the more you help other people out without expecting anything in return, the universe will bring it back to you tenfold. And so that's the concept of The Go-Giver. It's written as a parable, so it's easy read. You can read it in like 3 hours. My running joke is that I can read it in 4 because I'm a slow reader. But it's a great book. And I recommend this to so many people. I always joke that Bob should give me, one of these days, he's going to give me a commission check for all the books that I've sold for him, and I'm going to be able to retire because I promoted this book so much. I talk about it all the time. What I just told you could be an email. I could share that story. I know Bob. I actually got to know him. We've never been in the same room, but we talk on Facebook every once in a while, talk on LinkedIn every once in a while. He's a major dog guy. So am I. So we talk about the pups. And I've had that relationship with him because I got to know him through his book. And I share it all the time, and I can take it. And it has been an email that I put out and I sent out to people. It's like, hey, here's this great book. This is why I think you should read it. Here's a little bit of the story behind why I got into it and why I like it so much. Here's a link on Amazon. Check it out. Let me know what you think. Now, if you got that email, what would you think?
I think I'd be thinking 2 different things depending on when I got that email. Mm-hmm. Okay. And I'm going to be a bit frustrating here for you.
It's all good.
If that email was one of the first communications I got from you, I'd go, well, why do I trust this guy? Yeah, why should I? He's just trying to sell me a link to this book. But if I've been hearing from you regularly and I've been seeing what you've been sharing, and you've been practicing that, you've been giving without expecting in return, and then you say to me, hey, this is something you should have a look at. Let me know what you think. I'm thinking, yeah, of course I will. I'll jump on it straight away.
Yeah.
So that ties back in, I think, to that whole idea of trust and the timing of when we do these requests.
Yeah. So, and you've got a valid point there. Number one is, if you start them off in the good sites, like say, for instance, you give them your 5-day educational course or whatever you've got. And then one of the things you send out fairly soon after is a book like this. You've already built a relationship with them. So from the good side, if you built a relationship, people are going to go, they're going to get the email and they're going to expect that you're going to pitch them something. And most people screw this up and talk about their own book. You don't talk about your own book that way, because that is still, even if you're selling it for 99 cents, that's still self-serving. So by giving them somebody else's book that's not yours, and yes, I use affiliate links through Amazon because, I can make a couple of cents, but the reality is I don't do it because I get paid. I think that my Amazon commissions buys me like 2 mochas a year. It's not enough to count for anything. So that's not why I do it. Now, going back to if you screwed up and you messed up on the trust from the get-go, one of the things that I do is we do I mentioned earlier the Bring Them Back campaign. And we start with what I have now coined this the magic script. And I've given this to I've used this with several clients. I've used this, I've even given this out to people. And I'll give you what it is right now. Subject line is, I'm such a slacker. Okay. Then you're going to go in and you're going to say, I've been such a slacker. I haven't stayed in touch with you the way I should have. And I realize I made a big mistake there. I'm very sorry for that. And I promise starting today that I'm going to do better. I would love to hear what's going on in your world, what's cool and exciting. And then you just sign it. By the way, if you put a PS at the end that says, oh, and by the way, I have this buy one, get one free next week, it screws the whole thing up. So don't do that. That is the magic script. And the beauty of it is if you use something like I'm such a slacker in the subject line, you bet they're going to open that up because they're going to be like, what is that? What is he doing? And then they go through and they read it. And you're coming from a heartfelt place of realizing that you haven't communicated the way you should. And you realize that you need to turn over a new leaf and you're doing it now. And you're actually asking about them. You're starting a conversation with them. And the beauty of that is that they see that and you'll get people that'll come back. Thank you for the email. Some of them, depending on what kind of relationship you had before with them, you'll have people that'll come back and be like, hey, you know what? I dropped the ball too. I haven't been staying in touch with you the way I should. And we definitely need to fix that. Let's get on the calendar. If you're a bit more distant from your prospects than that, then you're probably not going to get that kind of response. But I've had clients who have gotten those kind of responses. Actually, the people receiving them are apologizing for dropping the ball when they receive the email. But here's the main thing with this. Then you have to do it right. You can't just go back to what you were doing before. You can't go back to pitching them every day. And you can't drop the ball and ghost them for another 3 months. You have to make a commitment to get in front of them on a regular basis. And when I say a regular basis, depending on where your market is, I'm going to say a week to 2 weeks apart. I have right now, I work with a lot of professional service providers. You're looking at executive consultants and people like that. And a week is too much for them. So we usually go roughly 2 weeks. But what we'll do is it's not every 14 days. It might be 12 days. It might be 20 days. It might be 10 days. I mean, we mix it up. We just bounce it up. Sometimes we do it in the morning. Sometimes we do it in the afternoon. Because then it looks, acts, and feels like a real email. Even if we put it into an automated system, which we do with a lot of our clients. We've got the technology. Technology's been around for ages now. And my own campaign runs for 3 years, 100% automated, 100% evergreen. My running joke is I could go outside and get hit by a bus today and still sell you stuff for 3 more years. But you do that, and now you talk to them differently, and it encourages a conversation. You think about a newsletter that you get that has all the fancy formatting, and it's a big long thing talking about how amazing a company is and all the big things that they're doing and what they have for sale. And maybe they got a client highlight on how cool the client thinks they are. It's all about them. Think about that. Every newsletter that you've got, has a single one of those newsletters actually built the relationship? Probably not a single one. But you send an email that says, hey, here's something that one of my mentors taught me that I thought was really helpful for me. And I thought I'd share it with you. Hopefully you'll get some value out of it. And then you just share it with them. Are they going to possibly reply back to that? Absolutely.
I think one of the things that is sort of, as you were saying that, I'm thinking about it, we've got our technology, we've got our systems, we've got our CRMs, our gurus telling us that we have to get an email campaign's not successful. We've got to measure our success, and we need a certain number of click-throughs and a certain number of calls to action and a certain number of actual dollar sales as a result.
Right.
But in the way that you're approaching this, What is a successful email? For a professional? What would be an example of how it's successful?
So here's how I look at it is that number one is I do primarily focus on higher level consultants with a high ticket item. This absolutely can work on a smaller scale if you're doing, selling more of a commodity, you're selling coaching, smaller coaching, you're doing courses, stuff like that. It can absolutely work. That's how I started with it. But for me, what I always look at is if we can take a client and say you're talking to 10 clients, but you're going to drop the ball at some point because you're human and you might follow up with them for about 3 months and then you move on because you got other people to talk to. Then those people, those leads are just now wasted. Whatever your opportunity cost was to get them in the door is now just burnt, gone. Whoever didn't convert by then, they're done. I always look at what if we could build a relationship, be more likely to convert that person in a quicker time frame, but also make sure that we stay in touch with them forever in an automated fashion that's not going to take us any more time. Once we build it once, let it run forever. That's why I love Evergreen. And if that person turns around and say, for instance, you got, like for me, when I started all this, I was speaking and I had you and I talked about this. I got a 10% close rate on speaking in front of stage. And at the time I was new. I didn't know any better. So I thought that sucked. So I thought, I was like, okay, 90 people just walked out the door. What did I do wrong? I'm obviously horrible. So I started collecting email addresses. And this is back in the old day. We didn't have QR codes or mobile websites or any of that kind of stuff like we do now. So I'm handing out pieces of paper and saying, fill out your contact information. I'm going to give you this cool thing. And oh, by the way, you got to make it legible or else you can get nothing, I mean, just like being real strict about that. And I'd get 85 to 90% of the room would fill out that piece of paper. And the beauty of it is now I'm building the list and I've got that follow-up process, which is mostly automated. So it's not taking extra time for me. And if I do follow up with, say, a phone call or a text message or any of that kind of stuff, then that's above and beyond. And that's the beauty of it, is that if you can keep doing what you're already doing and then add this as a layer on top of it, that means that if you get sick, you take a vacation, something happens in life, the machine is still working. But when you're about ready to give up because you're busy and you got 500 other people to follow up with, it still works. And you could have that person that may not have been ready today, may not be ready tomorrow, next month, but 6, 8, 12 months from now, they're ready. Sometimes it takes even longer. I've had people come back to me literally 10 years and 3 months later. So the success is, do you increase your conversion by building this once and letting it work forever? Yes. Will that happen immediately? Possibly. I've had people that sent out the magic script that I told you about. We had a client, we did a 3 email campaign for them, sent out the first email on Monday. Tuesday morning, I got an email from her saying, we need to stop the campaign. How do we do that? I called her. I was like, not even going to reply to the email. I called her. I'm like, what's wrong? And she's like, everybody replied. I'm like, what do you mean everybody replied? She's like, everybody replied. Her calendar was booked solid for the next month. And she ended up doing over $12,000 in sales by that Friday from the exact same email I just told you to use, by the way. So sometimes you get a windfall immediately. Sometimes it takes longer. But if you invest to put something like this in place now, the worst case scenario is that you've built a lot of really good value for people and you've helped them in their lives. So when they are ready, whatever that looks like, they're going to think of you first. And if they hear of somebody else that needs what you do, they're going to think of you first. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. And I think that's a trap that we fall into as to why we stop, because we forget that people, like as you mentioned, and this comes out quite a lot in your content repeatedly, people will buy from you when they are ready to buy. But if they've
Absolutely.
forgotten about you, they're not going to. And so many of us, we stop and think, oh, after 3 contacts, that's not working. They're not interested. We'll just push that
Yeah.
aside. We give up. But they're sort of thinking,
Mhm.
hang on, who was that guy again? Oh, I can't remember. I'll go and find someone else because you didn't stay in contact and you didn't keep that trust going.
Exactly. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's the key with this. And it doesn't matter what type of business you have with this. People will buy when they are ready. I had a client one time that I built her website, I did a logo for all kinds of stuff, and then she turns around and I didn't talk to her for 4 or 5 months. This is early on in my first company when I had a web and graphic design agency, before I learned all of this stuff that I'm doing now. And I did the work with her, blah, blah, blah. And she was super excited about it. She loved it. But then she comes back to me like 6 months later and shows me this brochure that somebody did. And I really wasn't impressed with it. And I'm just like, why didn't you come to me? She's like, oh, I didn't know you did brochures because I didn't do a good job of staying in front of her. Now, on a flip side, I had a client that I worked with, and we did postcards and business cards and logos and all kinds of stuff for him. And once I did business cards and brochure or postcards for him, and then he kind of disappeared for 3 4 months easily, probably even longer than that. And in that time frame, he did auto glass, and in that time frame I had went on vacation at some point, and I ended up finding out that like I had left, my partner at the time was still at the house, and somebody had broke the back window of my car. And she was like, I don't what do I do? I'm like, well, call the insurance company, they'll probably send somebody out. Didn't even think anything of it. I get back, everything's all fine, honky dory. About 2 weeks later, I go to an event, and he shows up, and I just turned white because I felt so bad about this. Was a client who had given me money, and I forgot about him when I could have given him that business. And it goes to show, I mean, obviously, yes, as a client, I should have remembered that, but it goes to show him not showing up made me forget about him when I could have given him that business. So it's our responsibility. It's not anybody else's responsibility. It's ours to stay in front of people on a consistent basis. And that's where, like email specifically, you have the most control. You don't have control. I mean, LinkedIn, Facebook, whatever platform you want to play with, they change things all the time. I have people on LinkedIn that are literally whining all the time now in the last 3 days about all of a sudden their reach went to nothing and nobody knows why. And I'm like, well, that's because it's LinkedIn and it's their sandbox, and they decided to kick some sand in your face. So the whole point is, you can use those platforms to get in front of eyeballs to begin with, but you have to get them into your sandbox, into your castle. I'm a big Renaissance fair nerd, so I like to use the get them in the castle concept. And our goal is to get them in the castle from everything else, and then keep them in the castle and make sure they're happy and feed them and give them mead and all the things that make them want to stick around and stay forever. And when we can do that, the beauty of it is we control that. And that's what your email list can do for you if you do it right. Or you can have all the people, they get a riot, they lynch the king and burn everything down if you do it wrong. So don't do that.
Look, Eli, you've given us a lot of thought, a lot of great practical insights. I think that there is so much more that we don't have time to cover today. And the good thing for our listeners is you are accessible. You do have the email course available. You also have the book. And we're going to put links to those in the show notes and also on our website, the businessbehindyourbusiness.com website. One of the things that's really struck home here is that you might have a list, but the value only shows up when you follow up consistently as a human and designed around the people that you're actually trying to engage with, their needs, and speaking to them like you're having a conversation, a real person. Over time, there's a lot of value there. And I think we've got distracted in the ADHD world that you've mentioned by all the bright, shiny objects and the new advice, but we're forgetting some of the core concepts. And look, you've been doing this for over 20 years, probably 30 years as well. It's not a new concept.
Pretty close.
The core concept is there, and you've proven that it works without being distracted by everything else that's going around. So there's some great advice there. We could keep talking for hours on this conversation, which we could, but I'm conscious that you've been very generous so far, and I want people to actually engage with you and find out more. Look, I've already started the email call, the five email course, and I'm getting a lot out of it already. But I'm looking forward to getting my hands on the full copy of the book and just exploring a lot of what we've talked about today in a lot more depth, but also implementing, not just exploring and finding that great thing. It's a book I'm going to grab, and it's going to be used. It's not going to sit gathering dust. It's going to get used because there is so much value in our email list, but we've got to do it correctly. Look, I've had an absolute wonderful time hearing all of you've been very generous with what you've told us today,
thank you.
but also very practical, and so much value for our listeners today, so much value for business owners, no matter where you are in the world. This stuff works. What Ely has shared, it's working, and real examples, real people, it works, and it can work for you as well. So don't ignore email. It is not dead. It's just the way that we're doing it is not really good. Coin a phrase. So, Ely, look, it's been a pleasure. We want people to get in touch with you. We'll share the links to you, on LinkedIn. Just play in that sandbox, but go and have a look at Ely's Grand Castle, because there's a lot more value, and you'll want to stay there because, he's got the goods, he's got the practical steps. He's going to help you really build some trust with your email list, which will then convert to what we really want is more revenue for our business. But we've got to take the steps of building trust with the people that we want to, who we would like to buy from us over time, not just spammy emails, barraging, saying sell, but build up that trust over time. Thank you, Ely. It's been fantastic. So much value today. Really appreciate it.
Well, thank you so much. I appreciate it. I love doing this kind of stuff. And reality is, if you start doing this way, start thinking differently about how you do this. When you do have an actual offer of something going on, the walls come down. They're much more likely to pay attention, and they appreciate it, and they don't get upset with you for making an offer. And it all builds from building that trust first. It's a mindset shift. It's not, there is no magic script that you can use. I mean, my magic script, but you got it. You can go use that, by the way. If you take that email and you send it and you get responses, please let me know. I've got dozens of those stories of people doing that and going, I've never had this many replies back before. So do that. Go do that to begin with. But when you change your mindset on how to communicate, the medium of email is just the medium. You do this with everything. Again, if you haven't been using email very much and you use the magic script and you start doing it, you'd probably be shocked at how the kind of results that you get, because you'll have more conversations than you've ever had with people who actually want to hear more from you.
That's great thoughts to leave us with today.
All right. Thank you so much.
That's a wrap for this episode of The Business Behind Your Business. We hope you found today's discussion insightful and valuable for your business journey. Before we go, don't forget to subscribe to our podcast on your favorite platform. Share it with fellow business owners who could benefit, and send in your burning questions, because we love hearing from you. Missed any of our previous episodes or looking for additional resources to help grow your business? Head over to our website at thebusinessbehindyourbusiness.com. There you'll find our full archive of past episodes, along with show notes, transcripts, and links to valuable resources mentioned in each episode. Your journey to business success continues at thebusinessbehindyourbusiness.com. Until next time, stay inspired, stay informed, and keep building the business of your dreams.